All right, so welcome everybody to our lunch seminar hosted by the Center for AI Innovation. Today is my great pleasure to introduce a long-term collaborator and a good friend of mine, Professor Abdussalam Alavani, who is an associate professor in the Siebel School of Computing and Data Science. He teaches one of the more popular classes or big classes in databases, and everybody who does any sort of systems development has to take that class because everything is based on the databases these days. And so his work and his research focuses on database systems and also computing education with emphasis on how the AI-powered tools and techniques can be used for this. He leads multiple initiatives, both in the Siebel School as well as on campus, related to generative AI for teaching and assessment, including AI-driven feedback systems for SQL assignments. So he actually pioneered, quite some time ago, the use of or integration of AI models into our teaching systems and as a tool that can actually verify student solutions. And more recently, his team is working on concept graph-based personalized learning tools. The idea is to, as students learn more and more, then there is this concept graph that gets built based on what they've been exposed to, and the students then can use it to verify what they know, what they need to learn, and so on. This is sort of quite novel and interesting ways to think about how teaching is to be delivered in the future. And he also analyzes student interactions with course-specific AI assistants. And so today he is going to talk about some of the practices that he has been using in his classes, and he graciously agreed to share some of these findings and some of these methods that he developed over time. And so thank you very much for coming and doing that.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot for the intro. I'm honored to be here. I've told one of you that I've been here for 7 years. I stepped foot in this building like maybe twice, go into the big auditorium. So it's a wonderful opportunity to be here with you today. So while my talk is going to be focused on practical techniques for instructors to use AI, particularly Agentic and Gen AI, to improve courses, you can draw a lot of similarities into things that you do in any domain and whatever work that you're doing. To some extent, I'll sound like I'm a salesman for some of these companies. I am not. So I will just lay down my experience and talk about how I've used those tools. I'll be happy to answer about things from the commercial side, like how much it costs me to use some of these tools or whether they are free tools or not. I think I'll skip the intro for now. I'll just add a few bits about me. I like to travel. That picture is in Istanbul. I enjoy traveling a lot. I am an active person. I like playing soccer. I have a black belt in Taekwondo, so take it easy with me, right? I mean, I can defend myself. And then I enjoy being here except for this time of year. Last year, I actually moved to my home country in North Africa, spending the entire year just to skip this cold weather. This year, I couldn't. So what I'm going to do, depending on how much time we have dedicated, I'm going to go over some of the practical ways that we can use Agentic and Gen AI to improve the way we do teaching and learning. And then I'll switch over, if I have time, to talk about some of the research projects that Vlad, in fact, is part of, some of which are part of the Strategic Instructional Innovation Program that my group is kind of working on. So let's go ahead and get started. What I'm going to do, I'm going to show you a use case, and then switch to the actual tool and show you the output in real time. So here's the first use case. And these are actual use cases that I've used in my class for classes that I've taught or classes that I've prepared. The first scenario, I am teaching a class, not the database systems class that I mentioned, which is well attended. There's another class called Data Management in the Cloud. It's more of a senior level grad courses, more of like a special topics course. And because it covers large scale data management in the cloud, this topic is ever changing. So there's always new technologies, new techniques, and it's not really hard to keep up with these technologies advancements when it comes to systems like that. So there are a couple of topics that I really wanted to teach, but there has been a lot of information about them, and time-wise, it's been critical for me to really do the actual research and go through finding the topics that I look for, particularly data lake architecture and cloud storage solutions and serverless data processing. So what I did is this is early in the Agentic AI era. I've used a system called Manus AI, and it's basically one of the most explicit way of doing agentic AI, because you can actually see what the agents are doing in real time. You can intervene as a user. You can have a lot of say in how the agents are doing the work. So what I provided information about, what sort of systems that I'm looking for it to basically profile. I give a specific venues like the Special Interest Group, SEGMOD, the Special Interest Group of Management of Data, one of the top database conferences, Veliraj databases. Those are all big conferences. I provided some of the textbooks that I wanted to look at. And I also kind of suggested the structure of the course and what I'm looking for. So right now, I'm going to show you some of these results in real time, and I'm going to actually run some similar experiments. So one thing I would like to say, one thing in terms of prompt engineering, I would never go to a particular system and immediately write the prompt and wait for the result. My best to-go way to do the prompt engineering is to go to, say, Gemini or ChatGPT, mostly ChatGPT, and I would put in the prompt that I want. So I say, hey, ChatGPT, act as a prompt engineer. I am trying to develop this task in this particular system, whatever system, whether it's an image creation, whether it's creating some slides or some content for a particular course, and I ask it to generate a prompt for me. And then I'll copy that prompt, and I will provide it to the system of interest. Why I do this? Because I do believe those large language models have all the resources, all the information that it needs to go over the documentation of these systems and know the best way to do prompt engineering. Rather than me just typing in a prompt and then setting off the conversation in a wrong way, I would actually save a lot of time by having another AI tool, Gen AI tool, do the prompt engineering for me. So as you can see here, I provided description of the lectures, both lectures, and then I specifically put some railguards to make sure that I can verify the results that are coming from the system. Okay, now let me scroll down and show you some of the results produced by the system, a full slide deck going over the details that I provided with all the information that I requested, okay? So, of course, it would be totally unreasonable for me to take this slide and present it immediately to my students, right? That's something that you should not do. This should be the stepping stone toward taking this product and, first of all, verify some of this information. And in the next use case, I'm actually going to show you how to verify this information before using it. But look at the design, look at the information. I can tell you that I verified personally the information provided here. I tracked down sources, and it mostly provided accurate information, structured the way I wanted, citing actual information. So there's still hallucinations. I'm not going to say that those Manus or whatever system that I'm using is not going to hallucinate. But the powerful thing about these systems that they're actually using agentic AI. In a sense, and I'll show you an example, I'm going to take this prompt where I say I teach this database course and this and that, and I'm actually going to create a new task. And I'm going to run it for one very important purpose, that I want to show you that the way we're used to interact with Agentic or Gen AI is that you submit the task and then you wait for the output and then you can verify whether the output is good or not. In these Agentic AI systems, you can actually, as the system is working, I can jump into the agent machine, and even if I don't have a software development experience, I can go to the browser and see what the agent is doing in real time. And sometimes I can either intervene. This is the agent's computer, and this is what it's doing as of now. And because I took over before it does anything, it's kind of halted the processing. Now I can look up a particular conference, right? So I think it took over the moment I was talking. So you could just go and open up a new window on the VM of the agent, right? I can even intervene if it got stuck through some of the security verification. I'm not sure about the ethics of that. We need to be careful. You can actually jump in, and it will ask you to jump in and help it out to continue with the task that it's performing. If I don't want to do that, I can simply exit takeover, right? And then just watch what the system is doing in real time. So it's just going to show me what's been working on. And then if I open the browser, I will be able to even see the PDFs files that it's opening, how it's highlighting them, and how it's going about achieving this task. So I will let this continue working, but the result of this I already have, and I already showed you earlier. So this is one of the use cases, and as you can see here, this is the mainnet computer, and I can actually see in real time what's being opened, what is happening, how the system is performing the tasks. Any questions so far? Does this make sense? So simply, I went to Agentic AI model. I give it a description of a couple of lectures that I would like to offer. I provided with some basically conference venues and some resources, and I asked it to provide me with a draft slides that I could use to teach this course, these particular topics. Any questions so far? Yes, Vlad.
So how much time do you spend after the lecture is generated to verify everything and
So
validate?
this is a very important question. You could do it the traditional way, and initially I did it the traditional way because I have no way to trust these systems to begin with or verify its output. They're getting improved by the second. That's something I always notice. But it took me actually 2 to 3 days to go and verify some of the information produced. But then I learned a better way, which I'm going to talk about in the next use case, in terms of embedding the tracking of and the verification of the information provided within the prompts that you generate. And I'll show this in the next case. Okay. So the next case is about designing an entire curriculum for a new course from scratch. Right? So it's not just about creating a slide. It's more about creating learning objectives, figuring out the modules, the learning objectives, as I mentioned, the modules, the structure of the course. So I need to be very critical in the way that I verify this information. So some of the things I've done, of course, this is an advanced topic, as I mentioned, so a lot of the things that I teach is coming recently out of some of the top-tier database conferences. I wanted to make sure that I provide some of the pillars of the concepts that I have about the course to begin with. And then I provided some information, including the conference venues, basically asking for full citations, and this is some of the real guarding here. I'm asking for full citations. I'm asking for snippets from the papers that was used, that is going to be provided with the literature review that the system is going to provide me within the other outputs that the system is going to provide, okay? And then some of the other information that is going to help me decide which topic that I'm going to use, like clustering topics, trends since 2020, some gaps, recommendation for readings, and whatnot. So some of the deliverables that the system would provide me, and I had to be intentional in asking for these deliverables, a topic heat map, 6 to 8 draft modules that I can use to basically start drafting the course, annotated reading list, and as I mentioned, trend and gaps. And here, just restating what I've mentioned about guardrails is just to have verified citation. I prefer particular venues. I prefer to make sure that I capture key figures legally and talk about some of the ethical aspects, including carbon footprints and whatnot, for some of the systems that I'm interested in. All right, so let's talk about some of the output provided. So early on, this is what the system provided me, right? Just a very kind of detailed literature review about the topics that I've mentioned from the conferences of interest, providing me with details, very well structured, lit review that I can read before I can even start working on some of the concepts. And here are some of the outputs that were provided. This is the heat map that I've mentioned of some of the big data analytics research topic heat map. So you could see conferences there. We have some of the top conferences per year. And then you would see some of the topics listed in the y-axis there. Annotated list of readings. And so you could see that some of the trends, verified paper citations. So here it provides me, this is an output of the guard railing, as I mentioned. It just give me all the information about the papers that I've used so that I can actually click on these links and verify that the information is coming from verified resources. So you should not rely 100% on the output of these tools. So I could have gotten the modules or the lit review and I would be happy with that. One way to verify, the way that I used earlier, which could take me actually many hours, few days to verify. So one thing to do is to have those agentic AI models to provide you some of the artifacts that you can use to verify the output of these systems. And you can integrate those with the way you prompt the system to begin with. So the pipeline that I use right now, I have an idea of a particular project, a particular task. I sit with ChatGPT and I ask it to act as my prompt engineer. And I ask it to provide me with provide certain input, certain output that I'm looking for, and guardrails. Kind of three sections, right? What I'm going to provide to the tool, what I'm going to expect from the tool, and how can I verify the output of this tool. ChatGPT will produce a very well-detailed, structured prompt. I take that prompt, and then I switch to the other tool, and I have to do the next task of verifying this information based on the products produced by the system. Any questions so far? All right. So for the third case, it's a research project that Vlad is actually involved with. We were building concept graphs, and I know as a PhD student that part of the data and systems area, back when I was a PhD student and beyond, that people are actually looking at entity resolution, concept mappings, and it's a whole field in the database systems part. So before we jump into actually trying to build things ourselves without looking back at what people have been doing, I wanted to do my due diligence and provide basically a lit review that will help me look into what people has been doing before us. So the most interesting part, even though I already show you a lit review that was provided by Manus, and I'm just focusing on Manus at this point, so I'm going to switch very soon, but I want to show you some of the guardrails that I have implemented here. So you can see here, I ask it to cite particular papers, and when it cites a paper, it has to give me basically extract some of the text from that paper and use it as a quotation within the document that is provided. So how this is going to help me, I'm actually going to be able to jump into this citation, look at that paper, go search this particular text that was copied, make sure that I verify that that information exists there, and that what was built on top of that information in the lit review is actually legit and hallucination-free. So again, as we work with Gen AI and agentic AI tools, things are going to get better. I can tell you this because I've been doing research with AI since I was a PhD student, mostly machine learning techniques, supervised and unsupervised models. And I've been doing work with neural networks and whatnot, even when I joined here early in 2018, mostly doing clustering student submissions, doing AI in education, trying to be able to manage a classroom using AI. And then when the Gen AI movement came, I immediately jumped into action. How can I educate myself? It's just to put myself in the shoes of someone who wanted to lead this movement, in a sense that I started to offer workshops, give talks, be part of national and international working groups related to AI and AI in education in particular. And I'm telling you this not to promote myself as an expert. I'm telling you this because I'm someone who witnessed how fast these models improve. I will give a session or a workshop a day, one particular day, right? And then I will show some of the issues, like bias issues or misconceptions or hallucination. And then a week or two later, I'm heading to the next workshop. And the day before, I'm just checking, making sure that the same scenario would still work. I will find that it was resolved. And I will try another scenario, a third scenario, fourth scenario, I will find it resolved. So at some point, I have to make sure that I am testing everything I do in each of these workshops to make sure that I verify some of the information produced. One thing I've actually noticed recently was some of the workshop, the same material that I'm using here, the slide that I showed you in use case 1, they were produced in a very kind of not really nice way. They were very primitive, nice. You could understand them. They're well structured. A few months later, a couple of months later, I came back and I rerun the same prompt, and I got a way more sophisticated, well-structured PowerPoint slides that I was just impressed. And I realized that Manus in particular had started a particular model that supports the generation of PowerPoints. There are several tools out there when it comes to slides generation. I think at this point, I would have to say Manus is one of the top systems out there that you just provided with the information you have, and you ask it to structure the slides in a way you want, and it's just going to produce it. Even styling-wise, you'd say, I'm from University of Illinois. It's just going to style it the way you style presentation in the University of Illinois. So it's getting really sophisticated. OK, so I'm going to jump into the next use case, which is something that interests me. And if you don't want to use AI at all, I think this is something, as an educator, as someone who offers training, you should definitely consider. How many of us were trying to create those slides for our students or for a group of trainees, and you want to do some automation? So the slides are really text, and they don't show the idea, and you believe that you can actually convey the idea by showing a simple demo. You're not going to hire a software engineer. It's going to take you a lot of time. You're not going to have to hire like a graphic designer or someone to produce just one slide for you. So the idea here is that you can use generative AI to create simple apps that you can actually demo on a web browser locally and show the demo that you would like to show. So let me switch and show you a few examples that I've recently created, OK? So I was part of a workshop for the civil environmental engineering a couple of months ago, and I prepared several examples for use cases that they may encounter in classes they teach. So here I'm switching to another tool. This is Google AI Studio. Google AI Studio includes Gemini, includes the new image creating tool, I think Banana something, Nano Banana. It contains a system for creating applications. It's called Build. So you can actually build an entire app within the Google AI Studio. And guess what? I think it's free for Illinois. If you log in with your Illinois account, I'm paying money until now, actually. I'm paying, I think it's $40 for this whole, they give you 1 terabyte of Google Drive. They give you access to Gemini. They give you access to Google AI Studio. But we just recently, in a very recent meeting, we realized that the university, if you sign up to Google with the university account, you get access to all those for free. So this is an example. This is no animation in this example. We just ask it to create a simple, simply kind of supported beam analysis. explain the calculations, show basically a figure, and then provide an explanation for a first-year student versus a grad student. Very simple, no animation, nothing fancy here. We can take it up a notch and show you a different example where I've asked it to create a traffic queue simulation. This simulation involves some parameters that can be adjusted, like the arrival rate, the cycle length, and the green time ratio. I can say start the simulation. First of all, maybe I should decrease or increase the length, decrease the length cycle, the arrival, make it more so that we can actually see it. And then I'm gonna reset and start again. As you can see here, just in a bit, I would be able to see some traffic coming in. It's not as visually nice. I'm sure if I try it again, I'm probably going to produce a better visualization. But I can see the cars are coming. I can see this counter for red, counter for yellow, counter for green. The cars will stop at the traffic light. And this is one of the scenarios in the civil engineering when it comes to kind of organizing traffic and whatnot. The cars is going to be stacked on top of each other. This is an advanced technology probably that we haven't seen yet. Elon Musk come up with another tunnel. And then you could see maybe after, I think it's going to be 80 minutes. Is that the cycle? No, it's less than that. It's going to get yellow, and then it's going to get green, and then the cars is going to be moving. And you can see this is going to give you a visualization of some of the concepts that you're describing to students. And this could be used in many different scenarios. OK? Here is a third one that I thought I had open. This one was created in a side conversation between me and one of the CAII faculty, Soteria. She's part of this project that I mentioned. And she was telling me, hey, Abdu, I know you do a lot of things about AI. I'm teaching this new course next semester, and I'm thinking about asking my students to do a project about social vulnerability when it comes to hazards in a particular area. So I'm going to ask him to do a project where they have to work on things. And I was like, OK, so you want to do this project? And I took exactly, as she's speaking, a couple of sentences, literally a couple of sentences about what she wanted to do. So I did not list the different types of hazards, right? I specified that I would like this to be on a map in Urbana-Champaign area, and I asked it to create the tool for me that kind of visualize some of these aspects. And as you can see, it actually went to the internet, got some data about Urbana-Champaign area when it comes to some of those hazards, listed the top 5 hazards that she actually verified for me that those are the main ones that she's considering when teaching a class like that. And beyond that, we talked about a scenario-based hazard analysis, and you could just select the scenario and you hit analyze, and what's going to happen, it's actually going to use Gen AI to grab the data from that particular area and use the data set from that area and provide you with a detailed analysis about this, the potential hazard related to tornado in this particular area. So as you can see, and this is, if I can scroll down, of course. Yeah, I need to maybe use a full screen, and I need to adjust some of the formatting here. But as you can see, this generated text is a hazard analysis based on the information that the system gathered. I'm just telling you, like, I've created this system, this app, in probably less than 10 minutes using a couple of English sentences describing what the instructor was explaining to me on a side meeting. So imagine what you could do if you went through the pipeline I mentioned earlier and be intentional about the prompt and all that thing. So the potential for using some of these tools is very significant. So let me tell you beyond teaching what I've been using these tools for. As I mentioned earlier, I play soccer, and I play soccer with a group of folks from Africa, Middle East, parts of Asia. And if you folks are not aware about people from these countries, they're really passionate about soccer, and they're really like, when they're playing a soccer game, you feel like it's the final of some championship, even though just like old people playing soccer, right? And it's been a significant problem for us creating teams. Every time they say, oh, this team is better than that team. So within a day, I sit down and I created a tool that distributes those teams equally. Last week, my daughter started volleyball, and we have this issue for carpooling, and then we figured out there's a lot of families who wanted to join the carpool, so the car would not fit, and we have people in part of Savoy, Prairie Fields, or Fieldstone, or this and that. Using Manus, I created an app that schedules different groups for carpool, and Manus hosted the app within the system. I did not have to do any deployment. I created the app. It allows people to sign in using Google accounts or Apple accounts, and I would be able to see all the people who signed up, provides their availability, their type of car, how many people they can fit, their address, and it did all the geolocation, deciding the groups, assigning the schedules to parents depending on the information provided. And it took me less than an hour just kind of thinking about how the app could be fancy. So we're in a situation where literally you can do amazing things just by thinking about how you're going to develop your prompt and what tool you should use for a particular scenario. Okay, I'm actually leaving my most exciting or scary experience to the end of this demo. As a teaching faculty, I teach a class of, my standard assignment is 400. I had been teaching classes of between 500 and 700 students every semester. And this comes with a lot of administrative work. I have, over 10 TAs, probably 20 CAs. So in general, I'm managing. And this is by far not the biggest class. CS had one of the early courses would have at least 1,200 students and a 50, staff. So for me, managing the staff, making sure that everyone is doing their part has been a hustle. And then sometimes the teaching staff would also help in terms of developing assessments or reviewing assessments, but the final say is for me that I have to verify everything that's being produced and that my students are basically using. So recently I come through, and the next step when it comes to Agentic AI, which is Agentic AI web browser, that they're going to take it to, to a different level. So when we think about ethics and academic integrity, what do you guys imagine our students are doing right now when they're working on, say, online assessments? So they're using, say, PrairieLen or whatever system, and they're trying to work on a programming assignments that is auto-graded on that assessment tool. I want you to tell me in what scenarios or in what ways our students could actually cheat using generative AI. So what they have to do to be able to get AI to help them solve the problem.
Copy-paste the assignment into...
Copy-paste, that's a lot of work. You could screenshot the problem, right?
Even just say what to do, just dictate.
Or say what you wanted to say, right? So, but you still have to take the time. Imagine our students still have to take the time to go to the browser, type in PrairieLen, click on the question, copy the question. That's a lot of work. We want to save them the time. It's unbelievable. So I'm going to show you, how life is going to be with some of the agentic web browsers. This is Comet. Think about it as Chrome, Firefox, Safari, that is coming with, one of the kind of mature AI systems. It's a browser, so I went to PrairieLen and I opened the assignment page, it's an advanced database assignment with about 12 questions. All are programming assignments. One is for a document database called MongoDB, and one is for a completely different database, very sophisticated Neo4j. And those are more of like an advanced topics where we do ask some intense questions. So I went to ChatGPT and I asked it to create a prompt that I'm going to be using with Comet. And the whole purpose of this work is that I want commit to go over all the questions, work on the questions one by one, do not move to the next question until you get a 100, and then provide me with a report of the quality of those questions, suggestions for improvements, and things like that. And once I hit this, you would be watching the magic right in front of you. So it's going to be analyzing the page, finding the problems, clicking, that's the action of clicking, reading the problem, scrolling down, pasting the solution, right? And, reads all the information about the question, then goes back to where the solution should be provided, and pastes the answer there. As you can see now, it finds out where the place where it should be putting the answer. It would create the answer and paste it there, and then it will move down and actually hit save and grade. Okay? So it's going to be telling you what it's been working on. I can see there's a text box editor, good. I can see the editor is now ready. And it's going to put the answer. It's showing you the answer that is created. It pasted the answer there. It's going to scroll down and find where is the button that is going to be used to save and grade and move on. So completely automated. So the students don't need to spend the time screenshotting or dictating or copying or doing anything. Okay? And as of today, this is still free. It's going to be waiting for the auto-grader to respond. Right? So it's not just going to try and move on. It's going to wait because the instruction is you do not move to the next question until you get 100%. And then provide me with kind of a whole report about the experience. Okay, so it's probably going to take a little bit of time because I have not turned on some of the services because the semester is wrapped up, but it's just going to be moving on to the next question and coming back to that question, trying it again until it gets 100%. I've run this test before. Can you guess how much this AI agent got in the entire assignment, which is the last assignment I am giving to my senior CS, undergraduate, and graduate students in the 411 course that I teach this year. It got 95%. And I would have to know how it actually missed the 5% because it's just surprising. I'm not sure, maybe missed an order of a statement or something, but I'll have to figure that out. So with that, I'd like to maybe stop right here before continuing with this presentation and moving to the research side. I think it's 12:41 now. I'd like to hear your insights. Like, what do you guys think? When you see this, are you worried? Do you see a potential? Maybe tell me a little bit about what you guys are doing, and I'd like to hear your thought about what you've seen so far, so that it's more of an interactive session. Go ahead.
I think one question I have in mind, how much is this changing the philosophy of education? What you are evaluating right now after the students have access to this technology?
This is in every conference that I've been to, mostly computing education and engineering education conferences. There's several discussions. There's a group of people who are all dedicated about how can we stop students from cheating. This is ethical problem. How can we teach them what we should teach them, right? What I'm enjoying about this revolution that I have never seen, even though that I'm old enough that I've witnessed the internet and I've witnessed several of these revolutions, none of which at this scale, that it is forcing, and it should force each one of us at the course level and at the program level to rethink about what we actually need to teach. For instance, I'm teaching a database course mostly about systems design and database programming, so I'm teaching them something that the Agentic and Gen AI is great at. Agentic AI is a language model after all. If there's a language with a structure, whatever the language is, this model is going to be great at it, and it's getting great by the second. It's getting better by the second. So should I continue teaching SQL, SQL structured query language, or MongoDB, or Cypher, the graph query language? Or should I say, you know what, the AI is going to do it for me, right? What sort of topics I should include? So this is revolutionary, and I worry that if anyone is not looking at the impact of AI into the things that they're teaching at every single level, it's seriously problematic. Some of my personal effort, I'm involved in another SEP project here in U of I. That project is called Artificially Successful. So what we're doing, a group of engineering courses, we're hiring staff that acts as fake students. So we're actually giving them names and adding them to the roster. And each student, in my class, I have 2 students this semester, one acting as a Gemini and the other one is acting as ChatGPT. So they do everything they follow the exact same protocol, and they do every single assignment. Even the group project, we assigned them fake students. We did everything possible to fake the staff so that they do not understand that they're actually interacting with, an agent or Gen AI model in the background. And that is not to trick our staff, of course. It's more to study what sort of assignments. So far, we have like 6 different engineering courses, and the number is increasing. And anyone who's teaching any engineering course could be a part of this project, is to understand how these models are evolving, what things are doing better, what things are not doing well. And we have to basically look at that as a first step and start to think about how should we teach the thing we're teaching. Now, in my opinion, after I graduated, I've been in school for so long. If you've done a PhD, you realize that you wasted a lot of time in school, right? And even after my PhD, I went and I did a postdoc. I was so crazy about being in school for some reason, right? So if you think about things that you've learned, the information that is being injected in your head, you wouldn't remember everything. Yes, I remember some basic skills. I'm good at programming. I understand data structures and algorithms and things like that. Maybe math, some of the basics I still have, but not everything, right? So you'd find that most of the things that you've learned, specifically after the PhD, is critical thinking, right? You can't just tell me a piece of news on the social media and you expect me to believe it. I'll be looking at, like, how did you get to this? Like, what are your sources? I'll start think critically. And if we're teaching something here at the undergraduate and graduate level, is problem-solving skills and critical thinking. Because if we give everything to AI, I spent years automating things on PrairieLen and allowing my students to be able to do assignments without having to write on a paper, and they can try the problem several times. We have sophisticated VMs working in the background, generating data, creating test cases for my students to be able to actually type in this code and see the analysis and get a real feel. But now, all of a sudden, maybe my students won't be doing this. They'll have to think at a higher abstract level, but they will still need the problem thinking skills, the ability to analyze and criticize and structure, the task that they're going to be working on. So am I going to stop teaching SQL next semester? No. I think they still need to understand how that language is constructed. They still need to learn it. I am integrating AI in my course. I have a semester-long project. They have to build a full-stack system, database-centered. I care more about the database than the front end, so I tell them, I'm not teaching you front end, so go ahead and use AI to create the front end. If you need to generate data, go ahead and generate data using. When they're working on collaborative learning activity, think of AI as your 3rd or 4th member in the group. Use it to consult. But there are assignments like this when I'm very strict into that you have to do them yourself because you have to do the critical thinking. And of course, I have ways to verify if the students are using. My goal is not to put them in a situation where I put a huge temptation in front of them that I didn't do it, but it's there, and then I ask them not to use it. So I have to basically balance between what I want to teach them and what exists out there. And moving forward, given what I'm seeing here, I don't think that what I'm doing right now with homework assignments is the best thing, right? Maybe I should create the homework assignments in a way that AI is integrated the way that they're going to be actually doing work in industry. And it's not just us instructors that we have to sit and think about our course material, what should we teach and what we shouldn't. We have to connect with industry and figure out their needs because they're also struggling trying to figure out what AI means for them. And then we kind of align the core principle, which is still teaching them problem-solving skills and improve their thinking abilities and all, but then also align them well to what's coming next. I'm still interested to hear more about your reactions to how things are moving related to anything you're doing in your daily tasks. Yeah, go ahead.
I would say I might have a little bit of a different perspective. So I teach advanced composition class, so I'm teaching mostly non-engineering, non-CS students. Mm-hmm. And if I'm honest, the papers that we suspect are written by AI are failing our rubric. Like, they're not scoring well against my rubric. But watching some of the things you've done today, maybe my students aren't good at writing their prompts. And maybe it's not the tool is bad at writing, they're just bad at prompting the tool. But I also don't want them, like we've built new material into our class of here's how to use it ethically, like use it to help you brainstorm, use it to help you learn, but please don't use the tool to write your entire paper. Yeah. So we're really navigating that of exactly, like we can't tell them to not use it. Like we don't tell them to not use, Word. We don't tell them to not use spell check. Like this is just another tool that's out there, but we have to guide them in ethical ways of using it. But I just thought it was funny that you were saying it scored 95% on your quiz, but like I said, from my perspective and what my students are using it for, it's failing my course rubric.
Okay, let me be very honest with you when I say your students are failing the way they're using these tools, because this is another dilemma I have in my class. The only student that I can actually catch cheating, the students who are not paying very good attention. Prairie Land tracks everything, so we know how much time you spend to paste. I mean, I'll figure out immediately that this was an AI agent because it's going to solve a problem that takes on average 5 hours in like few minutes. I can figure out using the log information how much time it took you to actually paste that information. And then some of the constructs. So students, if they're really careful, they would actually type in, they will take some statements out, they'll play with the system, they'll do it manually, right? Because for them, this is mechanical. They can do it all day long, right? They just don't want to think about it. They just want to get rid of this homework. They spend as less time as possible. So now, if you tell me about your assignment and you give me the rubric, and I know personally, because some of my students told me about their pipeline, some of which are very sophisticated when it comes to them gaming the system, right? They'll use one model for the initial step. They'll use a second model with prompting that, asking them to make it as close to some of the writing they had, and they will submit some of their previous writing. They'll take it and move it to another tool that DEI it. It kind of rewrite it in a human sense, going back to another maybe tool just to go a final run, and they'll go over it, and some of them develop the sophisticated sense of some of the words and structures that AI use, and they'll change it. They'll change those words. They'll take off some fancy words and play with it. So you still can catch them. They'll provide the rubric. They provide all the information. They provide lecture notes. They provide anything that the system can take for them to be able to do it the right way. Now, can you catch them? Yes. Can you prove that they've actually cheated? It's going to be extremely difficult. Most of the AI checkers out there are failing miserably.
I say, we don't depend on, we use the checker just to get an idea, but for us, it's very much the past 2 years has been an engaging conversation. Papers that are scoring low and we suspect, we invite them to come to office hours and we're like, can you just tell us about your writing process? What are you doing? What tools are you using? So that we can then, once we know what they're using, can then offer, guidance and suggestions and here's, things to consider and pointing out that, look, it's not grading well, the rubric. Like we really do want you to learn how to become a better writer. Yep. So let's change your writing process. That's how, we don't want to be the police. Yes. We don't want to have a bunch of fair cases. Like it's very much been you're right, let's improve your writing process, make some revisions, and let's move on. As long as they show willingness to learn, I don't want to be the police.
I 100% agree. Yeah. So one of the most important things that we need to do with our students, and this is something that we've been doing to some extent, is figuring out what motivates. There's the whole motivation theory in education that what students will be excited about things that they're motivated about. So we'd have to think about having this open conversation with students, understanding like why they need to learn what they need to learn, and then how they can use AI in an ethical way. That's something that in my personal experience in the classes I teach, every time I explain why, and in fact, I even bring some guest lectures to emphasize why students need to learn the things that I'm teaching them in this class. Because if they're motivated, if they think it has a value, they want to learn it. If they think it's just they can do it and resort to using a different tool, they'll also try to save themselves time. Any other comments, questions?
Yes, I guess yeah, I mean, so the genie is out of the bottle, so there is no way we can put it back. We just have to learn to live with it. But we still want our students to learn something. So I don't know. So what is your strategy in terms of? So I'll say. So in my class, there is 50% of the grades they can get by doing anything they want. So these are labs and projects. They can use AI for friends or anybody or anything. The other 50% come from the in-person, on-paper exams, where they have to demonstrate that they learned something like that. So what's your take on this kind of approach?
I follow a similar strategy. I still depend on collective consciousness in the sense that I still have them do works in groups. They still group with friends, which is, it's really hard to judge. I shift the weight a little bit more to CBTF proctored quizzes. So they do have to physically go to the CBTF with no access to any of those models. And that's when I can exactly test, their learning and their ability to, perform some of these tasks. So now you can use Gen AI, Agentic AI the way you want. There will be a time when you're going to sit in front of the computer where you don't have access to these tools, and you're going to have to solve the problem yourself. So I'm flexible in a sense that I want them to use AI where I think AI is going to be useful for them. And I have to demo and I have to scaffold and show them cases where AI is still struggling. And that's what I mentioned earlier. Like every time I try something, I find that it's getting better. I have a 1 hour session with my TAs last week, trying to kind of discuss how we can integrate AI more. And they were mostly worried about like how students can, solve problems without using AI. So they were suggesting different types of problems. So I opened Commit for them right when they were talking, and I showed them that even dragging and dropping, this thing can do. So we have questions where they don't have to type. They say, let's just switch things. So in my opinion, that you still want to give them the freedom to use AI and teach them how to use AI and scaffold it for them, right, so that they're using it effectively. But at some point, there are some very important learning objectives that you wanted to teach. And these are things that, for now, the only way that I can think of is just to have it proctored. I mean, in some classes that we're using writing, some faculty now asking students to come to class and write things on a pen and paper, just to make sure that they've actually, learned what they're supposed to be learning. No one figured it out. I didn't figure it out myself. I still learn every second, but I think what I'm trying to do with sessions like this is just to encourage open conversation and to ask people, to expose people to what's out there and be on the students' shoes, right? Because they have to do a lot. They have to go through a lot. They have students I teach in the 400 level class, they're really looking into like finding a job. They may be looking at my class as an elective class. Yes, it's popular because it's a course that is very needed in industry. They go through interviews, questions related to topics I teach. There are good jobs, good paying jobs that even with AI, data management and data modeling is very important. But I still have to kind of be in their shoes and motivate them to learn the things that I want to learn and keep an open conversation with them about the ethics of using AI, how it's limiting our problem-solving skills, how it's impacting our creativity, and things along these natures. Because after all, as I mentioned, my job is not to feed them information that I want them to remember. Most of my exams are not like asking questions for them to go back and look at the slides and figure it out. It's more about problem-solving skills. Like most of my quizzes and exams is like, just here is a problem, work on that problem, solve it out. So just think more of like, memorize. Because I think now we have devices, we have, who knows in the next, technology advancement, what we're going to have IoTs, tools in our hands that are going to help us to get information wherever we are. So the problem thinking, the abstract thinking, the ability to design and think carefully is something that should be in the core of everything we're doing, and keeping an eye on those tools and their potential so that we're aware of what's out there and trying to kind of brace for impact. Any other questions?
I'm sorry, I'm not a teacher, I'm not a professor, but I'm just curious. Do you know how the job market actually react to, first of all, students begin to use AI? First of all, they can create good prompt, they can use prompt to solve the problem, but more and more students are just creating prompt to solve the problem. Another thing is that if students, still be, traditional student, they use their brain to solve everything, which is excellent, but will they get what they deserve in the job market?
Very good question. To be able to tell you why I'm answering this question with a little bit of confidence, most of the conferences I attend, specifically in the database side, on the CS side, it's well attended by big industry players. We have Oracle, we have MongoDB, we have Microsoft folks, we have Amazon folks come and even present papers on those conferences. Most of the conversation I have with them goes along the same lines. So most of the feedback that they're receiving from their higher-ups is that we will not be replacing engineers with AI. They are at this level, they do not trust AI to do the things that they want to do. But they will be willing to replace engineers who doesn't know how to use AI with engineers that are using AI. So in the software engineering business and system development, there has been a significant amount of tools out there, some of which, for instance, Cursor is an integrated development environment where you have basically a model out there where understands the code that you're doing, the structure of the code, the task, it has all the information about the project you're working on. So if you can get the job done faster, they'll be more than happy. If you can run test cases or have these agentic models kind of identify issues way faster than your previous business processes, they're all for it. But that's changing. That is actually impacting the job market. We had a lot of our students got their internship offers rescinded and job offers rescinded because everyone, specifically big companies right now, are thinking about what it means to hire entry-level positions. Because back then, regardless of your skill level, there's a huge need, and every single programming task needs a human to do it. Right now, that's not the case. And now, I'm not sure if you heard, recently Amazon basically let about 10,000 people go. And it's not about it's about AI, but not just because AI will do the job. It's because they're fighting for resources and they want more money to be able to buy hardware resources that will allow them to do the things they're doing. So the number of companies that produces AI hardware, NVIDIA and I think NVIDIA and maybe Intel to some extent, they have a backlog of orders from these big companies. And those companies need to put a lot of money to be able to actually get what they want in terms of computing power. So they're looking into how can we free resources. So it's more about money management, not in a sense because AI is going to do the job. It's more because they need to use more of this AI computing power. I think it's been impacting since its invention and beyond. Specifically, Gen AI has been very good with any structured language, and this is something I mentioned. And coding is one of the tasks that as I mentioned in some of the examples, Agentic AI and AI is doing a great job. You can actually now develop an app from scratch, from ideation to deployment in hours. Again, is it going to perform as a system that is well thought of by a group of engineers? Maybe not. But it's easier for me now to build a concept like that and then use some people with higher skills to do the job. Still, mid-career people are fine because they have the skills. They can use AI to do the job better because they know the job to begin with. they will still need people at the early level to learn the job and then replace those mid-level careers. So they have to have a way to still hire people, but then they're looking for a different type of skills, right? Back in the days, I lived in a time when I've learned assembly and other language when I was coding. Now I've seen this abstraction going one level at a time, like learning, Java, C++, Java, right, Python with all the libraries that it offers. Now I'm seeing it as yet another abstraction that, you don't have to actually write the code. You have to think about what you want and be able to actually write prompts and use tools and integrate tools in a way that is conducive to business. Or do like what I do. I've learned, now I learned how to fix my car. I learned how to replace my, vinyl in the house and do business around the house, because who knows, right? If it takes over, I need to find another job. So I think it's 1:05. I still have some time. I'm going to be eating lunch. So if you folks have any questions, I'll be more than happy to take them. Otherwise, I do appreciate your time. Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah,